All right, guys, good news. I know a lot of people are really concerned with the title, but despite what you might have seen on Twitter, I am happy to reassure you that in a war between America and Yemen, America would win. We'll be okay, folks. Don't worry about it. I am enjoying all of the World War III posting as though the act of bombing Yemen is going to kick off World War III. You know? If that was the case, that would have happened a while ago. Uh, it's the same discourse every time, you know? I permit I permit the World War III posting with the Ukraine war because that actually was a pretty substantial, like, you know, that was a pretty spicy stuff. But Yemen, bombing Yemen, World War III, come on, Jesus. Vosh, is it finally freedom time? If you live in America, every day is freedom time. Um, yeah, wacky, wacky stuff. Does anyone genuinely believe that, though? I don't know, man. People are pretty fucking dumb. People are pretty stupid. Yeah, I don't know. Hmm. Yeah, World War III is currently trending on Twitter. Look at this. Breaking massive explosions. This is from Donald Trump News, not official. Thank you. Massive explosions have been reported as the U.S. and U.K. military forces carry out airstrikes against Houthi targets in Yemen. Did World War III just start? Why do we bomb the Houthis again? I'm a little lost. Okay, one more time. Let's get the ground rolling, folks. All right. The Houthis, well known and famous for their excellent flag. God is the greatest, death to America, death to Israel, a curse upon the Jews, victory to Islam. Those guys. Uh, they're an Islamist militia group in Yemen. More than a militia group, really. They're essentially a parallel government. They've been fighting with the Saudis for a while. You know, very complicated. We might have helped kill a couple bajillion innocent, you know, Yemenis with our sanctions and military support for Saudi Arabia. Who knows? Who's counting? You can see down here, right here, red, controlled by the government of Yemen. That's the quote-unquote official guys. Green, controlled by the Houthis. Now, what do the Houthis control? You might notice they control the part of Yemen that's right next to this passage of the Red Sea. That ships have to go through on their way to bring you goods from Alibaba or wherever fuck you get your shit from, right? Um, so the Houthis, in response to Israel's ongoing genocide of the Palestinian people, by the way, they don't actually care about the Palestinians. This is a recurring motif, okay? Every other Muslim group in the Middle East pretends to care about the Palestinians. They don't actually care. Like, they don't actually give a shit. They don't do anything to help them. They just like they just don't like Israel. I mean, their flag literally says like death to Jews. I like this is not these people are not acting out of humanitarian interest. Anyway, well, with stuff heating up in the Middle East, they decide to respond to Israel's behavior by attacking random cargo ships moving through the Red Sea. Now, as it turns out, threatening global maritime trade is actually the kind of thing that basically guarantees that America has like a buster call sent to you. So we initiated Operation Prosperity Guardian, where us and a bunch of other countries agreed, yeah, we should probably go atomize the Houthis, huh? Like, they're attacking maritime traffic. We should probably go there. We should atomize them. We should sort of mulch them. We should reduce them to a fine, misty paste that sinks to the bottom of the Red Sea and sort of, you know, dissolves in it, like cherry-flavored creatine, just a light pink tint to the Red Sea. Make it red for real. So we sent some ships on over there. Now, here's the crazy thing about the United States Navy, folks. Contrary to what you might have heard on Twitter, it's actually pretty good. And the Houthis, well, slightly less so. So the U.S. and U.K. Navy forces made their way over to the relevant area, and initially there was some exchanged fire with Houthi ships. You know, now Houthi ships are basically rowboats compared to what we have. So again, there's not really much of a fight here. Now the real question is, will Operation Prosperity Guardian involve striking targets inside Yemen, not just ships controlled by the Houthis, but actual Houthi targets inside Yemen? To which the answer is Obviously, yeah, of course they were going to. You think the United States would deploy like an international military, like a joint action, like naval group all the way over there to shoot at a couple of rowboats? Why would they do that? No, they did not send all that shit over there to stop at the boats. So now we bring ourselves to where we are today, which is, we'll get a video stinger for this one. Thank you.
U.S. and British military have launched strikes against targets in Yemen, areas of Yemen controlled by the Houthis. This is according to 2 U.S. officials. This, of course, comes in the wake of those Houthi rebel strikes on ships in the Red Sea, those strikes on commercial ships that we've been talking about now for weeks. It is, of course, the potential for a big escalation of the growing conflict in the Middle East. We've got team coverage tonight. I want to start with Gabe Gutierrez, who is live for us at the White House. Gabe, what do we know and where does this go?
Oh, well, hi there, Hallie. As you mentioned, 2 sources confirmed to us that the U.S. and British forces have started strikes against Houthi targets inside Yemen. Now,
yeah, let's take a look at that real quick. You know, we love our sort of gonzo war fetishization.
We do have video coming in of a strike, Barack, north of Sana'a, of course, the capital of the Sana'a, Yemen, in the Sana'a province. So we're going to show that as soon as we get it. But that will show, here it is. So you go ahead and watch this, Barack, show that we actually have video of these. Obviously, this is taken from the ground because you can hear the dogs.
Thank you.
Multiple plumes of smoke and fires.
So that's Sana'a. That's the capital of Yemen. Hold on one second. It's where is it in Yemen? It's like way towards the west side. Yeah, it's in Houthi-controlled territory. Also, beautiful city, by the way. Hopefully, our bombs don't hit anything too fancy. You know, Yemen has a very, as with many cultures in this region, you know, an incredibly like old architectural and cultural through line. You know, like a lot of history. So hopefully, we only break half these buildings instead of all of them. You know, it would be unfortunate to turn the whole thing into a parking lot. That's beautiful. Yeah. If I recall correctly, U.S. strikes are basically UN approved. Everyone is fine with this. The Houthis fucked up. They attacked international trade. You can't do that. Safe maritime trade, the fact that you can move ships around the world without being attacked by pirates is literally like the foundation of modern trade. It's like it's difficult to describe how important it is. This isn't just like an American capitalism thing. Like the planet unites against it. Nobody wants this. Nobody wants random maritime trade ship cargo vessels to be attacked for any reason under any circumstances. It's just too big. It's too involved. Top commander killed in Yemen. One nice thing about us doing these strikes rather than Israel doing them is that we actually know how to do precision targeting. I don't think this is real, though. No, that's fake. That's up. Isn't that Prigozhin? This is a photo of Prigozhin, right? That's one of his like fake photos where he did the thing. Yeah. Okay, there you go. Glad I identified that one. Yeah, we'll see what the actual targets are. We're probably not going to get a report on you know, like the actual effects of these strikes for a while. The Houthis have, you know, no interest in reporting their losses, at least not in the way that we would, you know, find credible. They fuck with America's boats, having learned nothing from basically the entirety of U.S. military history. Yeah, no kidding. We got involved in World War II because of Pearl Harbor. The very first war America did, the Barbary Wars, was in the Middle East over piracy. That was the very first war we did, wasn't it? After the Revolutionary War. So we, yeah. Why not just protect the boats without bombing the capital? Well, think about it. Like, for one, like, do you have any idea how expensive and impossible it is to provide a military escort for any of the thousands of ships that make their way through the Red Sea? It's not really possible. There's way too many. It would take like the World Navy to do it, you know? It would just be too much. Yeah, the Houthis really. Will you stop chewing a mouse cable? Good Lord. I made one of the mouse cables tasty, I guess, because it's braided instead of like rubber. The The U.S. Navy was founded to fight pirates, the Barbary Wars. They kept attacking our ships, so we built another navy. Yeah, well. Houthi fuckers also got anti-ship missiles from Iran. Not that they'll do much to us, despite what you might have heard from Twitter, you know.
Looks like it's being shot on a, basically like on an iPhone, up and down.
Don't judge. It is deeply unfortunate. Civilians are going to die, almost certainly. I mean, it's essentially impossible that civilians don't die. I believe these airstrikes are being done by actual jets, not by drones. I assume the munitions we're using are relatively accurate and high quality. Obviously, you know, I don't know. I mean, we could be killing any number of civilians, but my guess is that they're interested in relatively targeted strikes. I think, you know, it's unfortunately what is happening right now is an almost inevitable consequence of attacking maritime trade. So it almost feels like it's not possible. Like, because I'm going to get to it, but like a lot of people are upset at this, oftentimes, I think, for reasons quite illegitimate. It said they're using Tomahawk missiles. Okay, gotcha.
In Sana province. Brock, take a look at this and tell me what you see. Again, I want to emphasize this isn't coming from the UK or the US, you know, in the actual strike. This is coming from the ground. You hear someone speaking in Arabic and you hear the dogs.
I do hear the dogs.
Yeah, I think what we'll have to see.
So are the US and UK at war now? No. We have a declaration of war has not been supplied by Congress.
Is how this looks in the morning. Meaning when the sun comes up, we'll be able to see exactly what was hit, how big is the damage, and we will also know if there are any casualties among the Houthis. Just last week, the U.S. helicopters fired at some small boats that the Houthis sent to try and kidnap a commercial ship. 10 Houthi rebels were killed. And the interesting question to me is whether the U.S. Did this airstrikes on targets that had Houthi militants in them, or it was just empty targets.
Doesn't Congress need to approve of the missile strikes? No, my understanding is this is being done through the War Powers Resolution. It fits within the purview of the president's ability to engage in military action outside a declaration of Congress. I believe the limitations here are that it can't persist for more than 30 days, or is it 60 days? Here, hold on. I have the wiki up, because I preempted this. War Powers Resolution requires the president to notify Congress within 40 hours. That happened a while ago. Operation Prosperity Guardian was declared a while ago. Armed Force Military Action forbids armed force remaining for more than 60 days. We're not going to put boots on the ground. So it's probably just going to be like strikes from the ocean, from the sky. Also, Richard Nixon attempted to veto this, so that's interesting. Now, this was actually set as an attempt to limit the presidency's powers. Richard Nixon wanted like unlimited power. Your new best friend Ro Khanna and Democrat handler posted about it on Twitter. Yeah, I saw this. The president needs to come to Congress before launching a strike against the Houthis in Yemen and involving us in another Middle Eastern conflict. Okay, I dislike this for a couple of reasons. Because, again, like, a lot of this is political theater, you know? First of all, I'm pretty sure that, like, this is being done within a legitimate provision of the War Powers Act, the one, or the one that we just looked at. I guess people are going to make their case, but my impression was that they were already involved and that all of the like prerequisite, like all the boxes had been checked. Also, launching a strike against the Houthis in Yemen and involving us in another Middle Eastern conflict. We're already involved in Yemen, you know. I feel like we're already involved there personally. I guess we'll have to see. Seems like it isn't, because Rashida is also saying this action was done without congressional approval. We'll see. POTUS can't launch airstrikes in Yemen without congressional approval. This is illegal and violates Article 1. Wait, no. This isn't true. With the what we're just talking about, the War Powers Act or whatever, you don't need congressional approval. You need to inform Congress. Congressional approval is one of the preconditions for allowing, but this is incorrect. You just need to inform them. You don't need their approval. That's the point. If you need a congressional approval, then it would just be a regular declaration of war. These people do not want more of our taxpayer dollars going to endless war and the killing of civilians. It's not, man. America wants to be isolationist so badly, dude. It's more complicated. This is the Rashida one. Violating Article 1 of the Constitution without congressional approval. Again, it's being informed. It's not the approval thing. The American people are tired of endless war. I don't really, it's not endless war. It's a pretty specific, whatever. AUMF overrides War Powers Act. Authorization of military force of 2001. Yeah, but I'm pretty sure that Biden is invoking the War Powers Act. Like, this was its own thing, you know? This was its own different thing. They're bombing the capital of a country. That's a war. Yeah, but the question isn't whether or not it's a war. The question is whether or not congressional approval is required for the behavior. And my understanding was that Congress was informed. So I don't know. Not indefinitely, Benjamin, for that case, you know. Congress would agree with it regardless. I don't know if they would at the moment. I'm not sure. Not really sure. Yeah, that's what we said, Quoteth, you know. So is Biden actually purposely trying to ruin his chances? Pardon me for once again taking the contrary position here. I don't really mind this being done that much. It seems like a pretty inevitable consequence of the Houthis essentially run like a separate government within Yemen. They threatened maritime traffic. The entire world didn't like that. Yeah, the UN gave them a resolution. They said no. Like it's not like an uwu small bean mistake. The Houthis continued to do this in spite of like condemnation resolution, blah blah blah. So like, yeah, the hammer comes down. I guess it's not, I mean, it just seems so inevitable that it's barely even like a moral question. Like you threaten maritime trade, the hammer comes down. You're justifying Western hegemony? No. Everybody wants safe maritime trade. Everybody does. Not just America. Literally everybody. So, Vosh, you really believe that if Israel stopped their genocide, the Houthis wouldn't go home and claim victory? I don't think there's much of a connection to it. The Houthis don't do what the Houthis do because Israel exists, you know? China's also probably fine with it. Everyone is fine with it. You know, some countries are going to pretend otherwise because they're goofy. Joint statement from the governments of Australia, Bahrain, Canada, Denmark, Germany, Netherlands, New Zealand, Republic of Korea, United Kingdom, United States. Recognizing the broad consensus as expressed by 44 countries around the world on December 19, 2023, as well as the statement by the UN Security Council on December 1st, condemning Houthi attacks against merchant and commercial vessels transiting the Red Sea, our governments issued a joint statement on January 3rd, 2024, which called for the immediate end of illegal attacks and warned that malign actors would be held accountable should they continue to threaten lives, the global economy, and the free flow of commerce in the region's critical waterways. Despite this strong warning, attacks in the Red Sea have continued, including the launching of numerous missiles and one-way attack aerial vehicles against ships in the Red Sea on the 9th of January, including U.S. and UK vessels. I mean, they were literally attacking U.S. and UK vessels, like, from the ground. Like, this is a pretty normal response, I feel. Like, this is pretty, like, understandable. In response to these continued attacks, we are going to reduce all of Yemen to an ash heap. Well, you know. This is all a distraction from Hunter Biden's cock. That's true. Our aim remains to de-escalate tensions and restore stability in the Red Sea, but let our message be clear. We will not hesitate to defend lives, protect the free flow of commerce. Yeah, makes sense. Oh, nice, Ben. I love it when that happens, you know? No, Camaradas Prime, it's not even about capitalism. Like, even if capitalism didn't exist, even if all the world was socialist, the hammer would still come down on the Houthis. This is just maritime trade. Trade isn't a capitalist thing. Trade is a human thing. Trade is just the economy exists, you know? The economy will always exist. The economy isn't a bad thing. It's just a descriptor of human behavior. It's an element of human social organization. Like the threatening of free maritime trade is a threat to any system, except for, I guess, radical Jucheist, like agrarian, unless every country in the world is like Pol Pot level with like agrarian like self-dependence. Like I don't think there's any way around that. So people who are arguing this is a capitalism thing, like I reject that flatly. I think that's a dumb assessment of the situation. This is just like, this is just one of the easiest layups politically, man. Like, you go after maritime trade and like, this is what's going to happen. And they were warned, and now this is happening. And, you know, I don't know how much the Navy can reasonably accomplish in 60 days, but we do also have very big guns. We do have those. So I guess we'll see. It would make America look pretty bad if the Houthis just continued attacking ships after this. So I assume they're going to pound them pretty hard. Not really sure. Yeah, Axel, that's what I'm curious about. Like, how vulnerable could the Houthis possibly be to aerial strikes, you know? Yeah, that's true. The one time that even America and North Korea were willing to get along was when they were against Somali pirates. Not Saudi pirates, if only. Yeah. Okay, close that. Continue with this initial clip. Isn't it kind of obvious why people are annoyed, though? Oh, people can be annoyed all they want, for sure. I think that America should have done a lot more with regards to, like, Israel's behavior. And I think there is a very legitimate argument for hypocrisy. If anybody wants to make the statement, wow, look at how quickly the U.S. comes to defend international trade, meanwhile we're on, like, month 4 of Palestinian genocide, that is a correct appeal to hypocrisy. You're 100%. I'm not fighting you on that one. Yeah, that is pretty fucking weird. I agree. Well, it's not weird. It's a product of like it makes sense because we know they're evil. You know, so it's not weird. We expect the evil, but you know, fully correct on that one. I'm talking about this issue like in and of itself in a vacuum. Yeah, exactly, Dylan Burns. Used to be when you wanted to commit piracy, you had to sail a ship right up to their ship. But nowadays, you know, you fucking fancy drone tech, missiles, you know? We've lost our way. Looks like Kyle Kalinske actually thinks the Houthis are fighting for Palestinian liberation. Yeah, yeah. There are a lot of people who are going to take this angle. An unconstitutional bombing campaign because Yemen blocked trade with Israel. Yemen didn't block trade with Israel. That's just not true. They just started attacking ships. That's not true. And they're not attempting to stop a genocide. This is just incorrect. It's just not true, you know? Like, at all. The Houthis are very, very, very anti-Semitic. They don't like Israel, and they will take any opportunities they can get to kind of like play off of international condemnation of Israel. They want to be seen as like a force that opposes Israel and the Jews. But they're not authentically doing that. They're not really helping, you know? Do people not read UN resolutions? It's the UN. Who pays attention to them? But yeah, I clicked on Yemen in terms of the trending terms. And I mean, I've seen a lot of this from Hassan. Been watching CNN since the U.S. coalition started bombing Yemen, and they haven't mentioned once the blockade was implemented due to the genocide in Gaza. How they ever talked about this bombing campaign as an act of de-escalation. Okay. You mean not since we started bombing Yemen through Saudi Arabia, but like very recently. Yeah. I mean, it wasn't really due to the genocide in Gaza. They're just taking advantage of whatever. Brianna Joy Gray with a good take, as always. Notice that even in America's telling of events, Yemen's blockade has been bloodless. The complaint now being answered with American bombs is weeks of delays in shipping times. Wait, the Houthis literally put out a video of them landing on a civilian shipping, like, freight boat with a helicopter and storming it with guns. Like, is that non-violent? They've been firing missiles. What? The reason their quote-unquote blockade, it's not really a blockade, has been bloodless, to the extent that it has been bloodless, is because they suck. Bombing Yemen on the same day Israel stood trial for genocide. I just wonder if these Western leaders realize they made the world lose total faith in any kind of international law order. The international law agrees with them. The United Nations, it's a coalition of dozens of governments. Maybe Democrats can solve their Biden on the ticket problem by impeaching him for blatantly unconstitutional strikes in Yemen. I mean, we'll see if the War Powers Act bit doesn't go far, but my understanding of this was that this is like an unambiguous extension of the presidential power to, you know, blow shit up. Man, I don't see anybody with even a remotely left-leaning disposition on Twitter arguing even a little bit sensibly on this. It's quite disheartening, you know? Man. Like, look at this crap. Jesus. Pray for Yemen. They stood by the Palestinians unconditionally. No, they haven't. What? The Palestinians have been going through this shit for fucking more than half a century. That's not true. They're just, oh, dude. This is literally like seeing Nancy Pelosi kneeling with like a kente cloth and declaring that she is like the greatest ally of Black Americans who has ever lived. You know, like lefties are so fucking quick to assume that just because they're all brown people that they must actually get along. That's what they're doing, by the way. This shit is racist. They would never be this sort of uncritically accepting of these shallow declarations of support if they were being made by white people. It's because they're all brown Muslim people, you know, so, oh, they must love each other, you know. The Middle East, they're all like one people, basically, except for Israel, you know. That's why everything worked out when Britain drew the lines where they did, you know, because they're all the same, basically. It's fucking weird, man. The Houthis are just anti-Semitic and they're trying to rabble-rouse. They don't actually give a shit. Vosh, the libs win again, let them out. Yeah, well, I've said it before, but I feel like libs are consistently better than lefties on foreign policy, not including Israel. Not including Israel. Not that one. Not that. But, like, if you average it out, probably generally better, you know. There's a tangential argument to be made about the U.S. being partly responsible for the problems of the Houthis to begin with. Oh, for sure. Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Brain Richborn. It's a pretty big deal. Wish people like this would stop associating with those. What the fuck is this? What the fuck is this? Ah! TikTok! Oh, I didn't see it was a TikTok link. I love how TikTok autoplays. I'm not even looking at that. Fuck that. But do they condemn Hamas? I'm pretty sure the Houthis don't condemn Hamas. Would be my guess. You know, just a guess of mine. Let's finish this first video.
This is an escalation, Hallie. The U.S. had been trying to prevent or had
Israel's committing a genocide. The Houthis are blocking ships that support that genocide. No, they're not. No, you've completely drank the Kool-Aid. They're not. That's not what they're doing. They're just attacking ships. The idea that they are like specifically targeting ships to like embargo Israel is just not true. It's just that there's reality and then there's that. It's just not true. They're just attacking ships.
Retaliatory strikes against Houthi forces before, but these are the first land-based retaliatory strikes that the U.S. Has undergone.
Like it would literally be like like Israel begins the genocide of the Palestinians, or at least the most recent, you know, they've sort of taken to it more aggressively now. And then somebody's running around like downtown Chicago with a pistol, like shooting people, and then they're like shooting people dead, and you're like, whoa, what are you doing, man? And he's like, no, don't worry, they're Jews. Stop in Israel, something. While he's like rifling through their shit, you know, like you're like, there are so many like things wrong with the premise. I don't think it's a credible argument, you know?
They targeted multiple locations inside Yemen with fighter jets and Tomahawks fired from Navy ships. Now, Hallie, this comes after the White House has repeatedly warned the Houthis over the last several weeks to essentially knock it off. Now, none of these warnings had apparently worked. Today, the Iranian Navy seized an oil tanker off the coast of Oman, raising the stakes here.
Literally every lefty I see is repeating that Houthis are defending Palestinians. Yeah, man, again, like this shit, like lefties are such fucking marks, dude. You'll believe any old shit. You will believe any fucking narrative if it sounds like you're defending the oppressed or whatever. Like anything that makes you feel that way. I like, it does not take much critical examination of the Houthis to understand this is not being done sincerely. It's not like a deep dive or whatever. You know, it's pretty transparent.
Of course, the Houthis being backed by Iran, according to the National Security Council here. And the U.S. had been considering targeting these land-based positions for some time now. The U.S. and the U.K. had already responded by shooting down missiles and drones fired by the Houthis. The U.S. Navy recently sank Houthi boats that had fired on commercial ships. Now, today, Secretary of State Blinken was in Cairo, and he said, I don't think the conflict is escalating, but there are danger points, according
It's escalating. That's cope. It's definitely escalating.
to the Secretary of State. But again, the breaking news there, Hallie, that 2 U.S. officials confirmed to NBC News that the U.S. and British military have launched strikes against the Houthi militant group inside Yemen for the first time, Hallie.
Have I seen the Houthi leader statement? Houthi leader vows a, quote, big response if U.S. follows through on, quote, consequences for shipping attacks, report says. You don't say. The leader of the Houthi militants on Thursday vowed a big response if the U.S. and its allies take military action. Won't go unpunished. There will be consequences. The leader of the militia group said Thursday any response would be, quote, greater than an attack carried out by the Houthis this week, which was narrowly thwarted by U.S. and UK navies. Is that all he said? Was it just like one line they keep dragging out? He recently stated, quote, direct confrontation with the American, British, and Israeli is what we yearn for. Well, okay. I mean, whatever you say.
Raf Sanchez, I want to go to you now, live for us in Israel, in Tel Aviv. And Raf, we have talked now for weeks about the potential for a broader regional escalation, particularly after these attacks by Houthis in the Red Sea. We know there have been more than 24 on commercial ships, commercial tankers. This has been an issue that the U.S. and allies around the world have been trying to get a handle on.
This has been an issue for 2 months, Hallie, and the Houthis, week after week, attack after attack, have been defying the U.S., defying America's allies, and...
You know, I gotta say, these guys really aren't doing themselves any favors with being accused of, like, Western chauvinism, when the central criticism, the first one that you list when you're talking about the Houthis, is they've defied the U.S. Threatening international maritime trade is like a world concern, you know, like it's like a universal thing. But so this isn't a defying the U.S. How about they defied the United Nations? What about that? Like, I don't know, maybe give it like like indicate the international status of the, maybe a little bit.
Continuing these strikes on commercial ships heading through the Red Sea, through that narrow strait called the Bab el-Mandeb. Around 20% of global trade disrupted by these Houthi attacks, according to the U.S. government. You have ships, rather than going through the Red Sea, through the Suez Canal, and into the Mediterranean, are now taking this very long route around the southern coast of Africa.
Yep.
The Houthi attacks have been driving up the cost of shipping, costs which have been passed on to consumers all over the world. And it has become a situation that has become untenable from the perspective of the White House, from the perspective of the British government. You've heard Secretary Blinken, as he's been here in the region over the last week, saying again and again, there will be consequences if these Houthi attacks continue. And they have continued. Just yesterday, according to the U.S. and British militaries, the Houthis launching their largest, most complex attack yet. 18 drones, 3 missiles fired at ships in the Red Sea, despite those warnings from the U.S., from the U.K. These strikes
and the UN. God, dude, why?
Have been very highly telegraphed, Tally. The Houthis have known they were coming.
It's because this is being filmed in Tel Aviv, and Israel knows the United Nations fucking hates them, so they only want to invoke their allies and not like the world, you know?
They have put out warnings of their own, saying that they will respond to any American attacks, and they have options in terms of targets. Commercial ships in the Red Sea, American bases in the region, but also Saudi Arabia, oil facilities there, which they've targeted many, many times in the past. So we're seeing these American and British strikes coming now. The question is, how will the Houthis respond?
Presumably by dying would be my guess. That would be my guess, yeah.
Hallie, the Houthis have been a powerful force inside Yemen for years, but it was only after Israel's invasion of Gaza against Hamas that they really emerged on the world stage when they began to blockade the Red Sea. The Houthis say they are blockading the Red Sea in retaliation for Israel's blockade.
Here, wait, let me see some coverage from Al Jazeera English, because if there were any newscasters who would frame this in a manner that's critical of the West, it would be them.
Hello, we begin with breaking news at this hour. Explosions have been reported in Yemen's capital, Sana'a, and the port city of Hodeidah. U.S. officials say American and British troops have launched
leftist
strikes
audio
against targets linked to the Houthis there. It is the first time...
You know, I feel like I should just not have stereo on my OBS like desktop computer. I don't know why I've always had it. That's like, I don't know why. How do I change between stereo and mono? Right click, filters, property, advanced audio properties, mono. Oh, here we go. Boop. Let's see if that does it.
Strikes have been carried out against the Iran-backed group since it started attacking ships in the Red Sea late last year. The Houthis claim they're only targeting ships linked to Israel in response to the war on Gaza.
It still sucks for me, by the way.
The group's leader vowed to respond to any so-called aggression.
We
will not hesitate to do everything we can, and we will confront the
Recognize this flag?
American aggression. Any American aggression will never remain without a response, and the response will not only be at the level of the recent operation that targeted Americans at sea with more than 24 drones and several missiles. The response will be greater than that, and more than that. And with that, we are more determined to continue and target ships linked to Israel. We will not back down from that, and our position stems from our faith. The Americans should know what that means.
That's a weird thing for a guy to say if his primary concern is a humanitarian blockade of Israel for doing a genocide. He didn't mention the Palestinians once.
We've got correspondents covering this on both sides of the Atlantic. Willem Marx is in London tonight.
Are the ships actually linked to Israel? No. Just no. It's not at all. Not even a little bit.
First, let's cross to Washington, D.C. and speak to Shihab Rattansi. So, Shihab, any comment from the U.S. on this?
No comment. As far as we can see as yet, the position of the administration has been the same for a week now. There will be consequences for the Houthis if they continue to attack shipping in the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden. It was repeated by Antony Blinken during his tour of the region on Wednesday. We understand that Congress was briefed earlier today, Thursday, here in the United States. But the interesting thing is that the White House press pool was told to go home just about an hour ago, which is kind of interesting because that would suggest that then we're not going to have any official statements from the Joe Biden as he launches another war, or he gets involved in another war in the region. He starts bombing Yemen. Remember, Joe Biden, he was the candidate who said he was going to end endless wars, specifically in the Middle East, specifically in Yemen, actually. That was a major part of his campaign, was to stop...
I don't think this is... I find these arguments unconvincing. For one, boots aren't on the ground, so this can't really be an endless war. We're not, like, getting involved or being bound there in any way. Secondly, this isn't just some incidental thing. You know, this is pretty clearly like an international response to protect maritime shipping. And third of all, it doesn't seem like it's going to last that long. And fourth of all, like, I don't really think what we're doing right now is at all comparable to the ways in which we've supported Saudi Arabia's genocide in Yemen before, you know? I don't think those things are comparable.
The war in Yemen, but now he, again, like the two presidents before him, is bombing Yemen, or at least involved in the bombing of Yemen, and clearly then he's not terribly keen on facing the cameras, it would appear, tonight.
And what they said earlier, I mean, how are they at this point separating this from the defensive Prosperity Guardian mission, which is what the mission that they've been carrying out for several weeks now to repel the Houthi attacks in the Red Sea?
It was really striking how the Pentagon spokesperson, when asked about all the rumors that were circulating about the imminence of U.S. strikes on Yemen, how his main concern seemed to be to separate any U.S. military action on Yemen from Operation Prosperity Guardian. Operation Prosperity Guardian is this attempt...
Biden took the Houthis off the terror watch list, Fosh. Biden tried to work with them. These retarded America bad lefties can't stop being wrong. Well, in fairness, America is bad. It is true that a greater effort has been made to negotiate or sort of lessen tensions in Yemen with America under the Biden administration than, say, the Trump administration. Yeah, it's a fucking death knell for nuance, right? I mean, shit like this, it all goes to hell.
By the U.S. to get a coalition together to patrol the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden, and it's been doing really badly. Key allies have said, no, we're not going to take part, or if we do patrol, we'll do it by ourselves. And part of that was because there was a suspicion that if there was some international coalition in the area, it would be used as some sort of fig leaf for a U.S. escalation in the region, even as the Biden administration says it doesn't. That's the one thing it doesn't want, is to accelerate the conflict further from Gaza and the West Bank's borders. So this is kind of...
I think this is quite disingenuous. It's disingenuous in like a very light way, like a very light touch, you know?
The reason why so many allies seem to say, no, we don't want to be a part of this. And so what the Pentagon spokesperson said was, look, if there is any offensive action taken on Yemen, it's purely the sovereign decision of individual nations. It has nothing to do with...
This is the level of discourse right now, it seems like. Yemen has killed no one. They've affected Israel's bottom line in support of Gaza. Just a lie. Not only is this a lie, I'm going to call this an anti-Semitic lie. The idea that they're just random attacks have in some way been a principled embargo of Israel could only be true if you believe in international Jewry. But two countries whose land does not touch the Red Sea, why the fuck would that matter if the Red Sea is a major passage for maritime traffic? What relevance is that? It's called international waters. Are bombing Yemen to protect Israel's ability to free trade. This is Nazi shit. Like, unironically, the Houthis were waged in a war against international Jewry, but then two other countries jump in to protect Israel. Like, it's like there's so much shit packed in here, man. Hold on, can we listen to like a real journalist for a second?
Yes,
there
folks,
we go.
I'm making this video because people don't seem to realize how serious the situation is right now. At this point, we've seen for the last few months how the Houthi forces in Yemen have been stopping ships to support the Palestinians. They've said that in order to support the Palestinians, they're not letting any ships pass through the Red Sea.
I thought they were only stopping Israeli ships. Now they're stopping all ships. Wait, hold on. Get your story straight. I thought they were only going after ships that were involved in Israeli trade. Now it's all ships going through the Red Sea they're after?
Because Israel won't stop bombing Gaza. And so demanding that Israel stop bombing Gaza, they are blocking the Red Sea. Well, now we find out that the United States and the United Kingdom are on the brink of attacking the Houthi forces, the Yemeni Houthi Ansar Allah forces that have been blocking the Red Sea. The U.S. and the United Kingdom are on the brink of carrying out a major strike.
Oh, thank you. Who linked this? Last Wish 16. Ships that have been attacked by the Houthis since October 7th. And like the date, 15th of December, HMS Diamond, a Royal Navy destroyer downed a Houthi UAV launched at vessels in the southern Red Sea. So it's just all engagements, I guess. Houthis boarded this vehicle carrier en route from Turkey to Indonesia by helicopter and hijacked it to Hudaida port. Houthis claim to have targeted this container ship sailing from Singapore to Egypt because it was bound for occupied Palestine. It wasn't hit. Earlier, Houthis fired ballistic missiles, which also missed. French Navy frigate downed 2 Houthi drones launched at it 100 kilometers off Yemen coast. Navy destroyer and FA-18s from Eisenhower aircraft carrier downed 12 attack drones, 3 anti-ship ballistic missiles, and 2 cruise missiles fired by the Houthis. No damage to ships in the area. You can tell when the fucking Americans get involved. Anti-ship ballistic missile drone fired at Norwegian tanker carrying biodiesel from Saudi Arabia to Reunion. It was hit but continued on course. Owner says no Israel links. We have yet to hit a single vessel that was Israel linked, by the way. The container ship sailing from Greece to Singapore was hit by a UAV, resulting in a fire on board. Houthis also ordered another vessel to alter course towards Yemen. Container ships sailing from Saudi Arabia to the UAE reported a nearby explosion in the water, but was not hit. Houthis launched ballistic missiles which missed and an anti-ship missile that hit and caused minor damage to the bulk carrier. 2 other ships, number 9 and Sophie II, were hit. Registered in the Bahamas, though which ship isn't. No info on that listed. I don't care enough to go into detail. This is just legit indiscriminate piracy, lol. Yes! It's just indiscriminate piracy. Do you think the Houthis even have the intel to fully know the details on the random cargo ships they're firing at? They're literally like blind firing missiles from the coast, No, they're literally just randomly attacking ships. The idea that this is being done to defend Palestinians is fucking bullshit, Yeah, Imperial General, but keep in mind, they would have to get it like live and know the exact path of the ship and distinguish it from other ships in the region, of which there are many. Actually specifically targeting ships passing through a really busy strait, going after the ones you want to, but not the ones you don't want to, actually does take a decent amount of wherewithal. Also, in case you guys have forgotten, they're literally fucking radical Islamists. Their flag is just death to Jews in text. Do you really expect that much competence from these guys? Houthi drone to hit Norwegian crude tanker sailing from Romania to India. USS Laboon responded and downed 4 drones launched towards it. 2 anti-ship ballistic crude oil tanker sailing from Russia hit by drone. Damn, they're even going after their fucking allies. Sailing from Kenya to Saudi Arabia hit by ballistic missile. U.S. Navy destroyer down Houthi UAV. 2 missiles fired at the tanker sailing from India to Suez, while a U.S. Navy destroyer downed a Houthi drone. Navy destroyer down 3 Houthi drones. Sailing from Morocco to India. Unknown assailants boarded a merchant vessel south of Oman and hijacked it towards Somalia. Wait, hold on. Towards Somalia. Unknown hijackers. I've heard this one before.
Against the Yemenis. And now we also find out that in Iraq, The Shia militias that are aligned with Iran say that if that happens, they will unload on American bases. They are locked and loaded and ready. Hezbollah in Lebanon is also locked and loaded and ready. And if the United States and the United Kingdom go ahead and attack the Red Sea...
At the Red Sea? The only one who's been attacking the Red Sea is Houthis whenever they misfire with the rocket, you know? They're the ones hitting the sea.
This could be the beginning of World War III. This could be the...
This is what you motherfuckers sound like. I go on Twitter, I just see a bunch of fucking Caleb Maupins, okay? Caleb Maupin must be jealous because the Houthis are the ones who are about to get spanked.
Beginning of a really, really ugly situation. They are locked and loaded all over the Middle East, in Lebanon, in Iraq, and in other places to just unload on American forces immediately. If this happens, this could be a disaster.
Dog, did you... I just remember how the narrative, like, 1 month ago was that the American Navy was going to, like, collapse in fear of the Houthi might. And now it's like, you know, actually U.S. military bases will be destroyed by Shia militias.
A lot of American soldiers are going to be coming home in baddie bags. A lot of people are going to die. A lot of people have already died. The solution is that Israel needs to stop bombing Gaza. The whole world is asking for a ceasefire to protect Palestinian lives. And the United States seems to be just standing by and protecting Israel at the UN Security Council and doing everything they can to continue to let Israel continue its bombardment. Well,
it's not about protecting Israel because, again, the Houthis haven't really done anything that disrupts Israel. They've just been disrupting maritime trade.
The whole world is against it. There are proceedings going on right now in the International Criminal Court of Justice against Israel brought by South Africa. The whole world is saying that Israel just needs to stop. And now the United States is on the brink of launching World War III by attacking Yemen.
Launching? As an initiative? Like, just with Yemen? That's the linchpin for World War III, boys. Yemen. The previously unbombed Yemen, you know?
Basically because they are so determined to protect Israel. This is outrageous. This is crazy.
Oh, here's attacks on U.S. bases in Iraq and Syria, like by Iranian-backed militias. Guys, would you be surprised to hear that random Islamic jihadist militias that have been given rusty Cold War era rifles and thrown at a U.S. military base actually very rarely do anything? Would you be surprised to hear that the United States military actually usually does pretty well when directly assaulted by Shia militants? In case you were wondering, you know. Starting on the 17th of October, Iran-backed militias initiated a coordinated series of more than 115 attacks on U.S. military bases and assets in Syria and Iraq, resulting in dozens of injuries. Not a single death. Oh, hold on. One non-combat contractor killed. There we go.
Escalate now. This situation needs to de-escalate. This is a disaster. De-escalate now. Do not strike Yemen. Tell Israel to stop bombing Gaza. The USA needs to stay the hell out of the Red Sea. Hands off Yemen. Stop supporting Israel. Ceasefire now. And
what we need to do is we need to get the IDF to bomb Yemen. We just need to redirect the bombs. Wait, the bomb's over here and not over here. It's in the wrong place. People might mistake my thoughts on it. Fuck, this is funny. I don't know, Mr. Debian guy. It's pretty rough. In all likelihood, there's not actually going to be like that many deaths. My guess, I could be wrong, right? Like I can't predict the future, but my guess is that this is going to be a relatively dense and coordinated series of strikes to destroy infrastructure we've taken the time to identify beforehand, and after that we're going to back off substantially and go like, I don't think there's going to be that much of a committed long-term engagement. Not to, like, for one reason above all others, we don't have a full supply line running down to the Red Sea, do we? Like, the missiles they're firing, the bombs they're dropping, they only have as much as are carried on that carrier group. So, like, they have a limited, like, they don't have, like, a full chain of resources coming in. We do in Djibouti. Are we getting resupplied through them? I thought the Saudis weren't even a part of Operation Market Guardian, and I don't know how much we keep in our bases in Djibouti. Certainly not like Tomahawk missiles, right? I guess we could. Yeah, I don't really know. I don't know what we keep in our base in Djibouti. We have base Djibouti. Yeah, but like everyone does, right? The U.S. Navy can restock within 24 hours. The question is, like, to what extent are they willing to do that, though? There's a difference between, I guess, like purely on a vibes level, there's a difference between parking an aircraft carrier off the coast of Yemen, giving them a light pepper, a little twist like at a restaurant, and then dipping, and like a full fucking supply line of Tomahawk missiles to continue hitting them with. What's special about Tomahawks? It's big missiles, not little bullets or whatever, big missiles. Yeah. Who knows? I just, I just see a lot of bad takes. So I just wanted to come on here and declare my, unilateral support for continued bombing of Yemen. Is it racist to make Djibouti jokes? It's kind of inevitable, Like, if in Djibouti, it turns out in their language, Philadelphia means like anus boil, they'd probably make fun of that, right? I don't know. The U.S. Navy is using this Houthi shit to train their guys in air defense stuff. Oh yeah, sure, for sure. You always want people with combat experience. Watch you get canceled for your Houthi takes? I'm sure some people will try to. I don't know if anyone's going to argue with this. Get like fucking dogpiled on Twitter if I engage with this right now. Jesus Christ. Debate Kyle. From Marianne Williamson, the U.S. dropped bombs on the Houthis in Yemen today because the Houthis are attacking ships in the Red Sea in retaliation for Israel for dropping bombs on Gaza. An infinitely better way to handle this would be for the bombs to stop dropping on Gaza. Well, I agree that would be nice. It's not the worst take I've heard, I guess. I don't think the Houthis would stop there, Even if they did, they still have to be... the hammer still has to come down. There's no getting around the hammer, folks. The hammer is a very important part of the process. Sorry, I'm looking like OSN technical stuff. It's a war right now. U.S. Navy P-8 Poseidon just popped up over the Gulf of Aden, operating roughly 80 miles off the Yemeni coast. Yeah. OSN sucks. Yeah, they're terrible. Yeah. From Mehdi, apparently using war powers here isn't solid. Well, I do trust Mehdi Hassan. Okay, let's see. Let's see. What does the War Powers Resolution require the president to do before taking military action? What does it allow Congress to do after the president uses force abroad without authorization? The War Powers Resolution does not authorize the president to use force. It is a common misperception to think otherwise. The law's stated purpose is to fulfill the intent of the framers of the Constitution and ensure the collective judgment of both Congress and the president will apply to the introduction of U.S. armed forces into hostilities or into situations where imminent involvement in hostilities is clearly indicated a circumstance. As noted above, it takes a limited view of the president's authority to introduce U.S. armed forces such as... Wait, this doesn't debunk anything on its own. All it says is that it gives the president a limited, like, range of allowable military activity outside of congressional approval. But this doesn't say that what has happened is wrong. Read the quote tweet from Rokana. Section 2C of the War Powers Act is clear. POTUS may only introduce the U.S. into hostilities after congressional authorization or in a national emergency when the U.S. is under attack. Reporting is not a substitute. This is a retaliatory offensive strike. Okay, hold on. He's saying Rokana is wrong, I think. No, I think he's agreeing. The constitutional powers of the president as commander-in-chief to introduce the United States Armed Forces into hostilities or into situations where imminent involvement in hostilities is clearly indicated by the circumstances are exercised only pursuant to 1. A declaration of war, which Congress has not done, 2. Specific statutory authorization, I believe that would also come from Congress, statute, you know, or 3. A national emergency created by attacks or by attack upon the U.S., its territories or possessions, or on its armed forces. Well, first of all, the Houthis literally did attack U.S. Navy vessels. So that sounds like a cheap technicality, but that in and of itself fulfills the criteria objectively. Now, I would argue that the real reason this is being done, obviously, is not for retaliation for those, like, meaningless attacks against our ships, but rather because they're attacking something that is actually the territory of all people on this earth, which is international maritime trade. So this would be like a constitutional law argument to make, I guess, or like, you know, you'd have to do some interpretation bullshit. But I think you could fairly argue that the right to free trade internationally is something that could fit in the purview of territories or possessions, you know? Like, if there was a threat to international maritime trade, you would not need to wait until an American ship specifically got taken to act. You could act in response to, like, the broader threat, you know? That being said, if you're looking for, like, a technicality, I think that attack upon its armed forces is fulfilled. The criteria is fulfilled, so... I know that's not a very, like, definitive or satisfying answer, but again, I really do think that as justified military engagements go, this one's pretty high up there. You can't attack international maritime trade, you know? You can't do that, man. You can't do that. You can't do that. You're on thin ice, KCJ. Yeah, it's against school rules. It gets more complicated even because Houthis aren't the government of Yemen, so you can't really start a standard war against them. I guess that's technically true. We don't recognize the Houthis as the, you know, yeah, as the leaders of Yemen. Yeah, that gets more in the particulars on that side of things. So I would rather stick, I guess, towards my end of the explanation, but yeah. Do you think Trump would be better on the Houthis than Biden? Oh, I don't know. But is bombing Yemen the right way to respond? Yeah. Like the drones and missiles are being fired from inland Yemen. What are you supposed to do about these attacks on, like, we're talking about international waters that are passing through a strait in the Red Sea. Like, there's no way to go around it unless you go all the way around Africa. You know, you can't just, like, park an embargo ship. You can't just, like, keep ships there forever and just shoot down missiles and drones as they come out, right? I mean, eventually you fire back. You gotta bomb somebody. I mean, what are you gonna do? Send an aircraft carrier all the way to the Red Sea and not bomb somebody? Come on. Yeah, while we're out here, come on. I mean, the moral decision is to stop the Israelis. Yes, I agree, and I've talked about that extensively, including my own ideas on how that should be done. But I don't think I don't think. I know the Houthis aren't actually doing this to stop Palestinians, so it's kind of its own issue, you know? What's the Houthis' actual reason for attacking ships? Same reason pirates do piracy. They want to get the stuff off of them, and they want renown. They're rabble rousers. They want to build legitimacy with other anti-Western radical groups in the Middle East by positioning themselves as a fighter against Israel. You know, they want to meet God. Also, a lot of them just want to meet God. Again, jihadists. You know. Why now? Because now is an excellent time to show the world that you're anti-Israeli. Maybe the Houthis should be protesting in a place where they're not blocking traffic. It always comes down to traffic. The farmers in Europe blocking traffic, the fucking hipsters in Seattle with the 5, and now it's the fucking the Strait in the Red Sea. It's always with traffic. It's all human politics. It's like how all energy generation is just boiling water, you know? Windmills, some kinds of solar nuclear power plant, you're boiling water, you know? It's like politics, you're defending a highway. Everything is traffic. Remember the ship that got stuck? Well, that was in the oh, how am I blanking? The Suez Canal. Thank you. Yeah, Suez. I mean, it's in the area. It's nearby. It's somewhat there, but yeah. It was a really bad idea attacking U.S. Navy ships. Yeah, but the Houthis are, you know, ready and willing. America only started attacking after the UN Security Council resolution. Yeah, really quick question, by the way. I'm wondering how people feel about this, like lefties or whatever. Why did Algeria, China, Mozambique, and Russia abstain from voting in the UN Security Council Resolution 2722, which was when the Security Council broadly condemned the Houthis, you know? You know, 11 voted for, 4 abstained, but no one voted against it. China and Russia also want the Houthis stopped. They just don't want to be seen as it, you know? China and Russia get a lot of political capital from pretending to be anti-Western hegemon, but again, international maritime trade is a global thing. Remember, one of the ships the Houthis attacked was coming from Russia, you know? Literally everyone wants the Houthis to stop. It's just America stepping up to the plate. Ooh. Getting on up there. China wants them to stop but doesn't want to lift a finger. Aren't there 20 countries who are a part of Operation Market Guardian or a Prosperity Guardian who are staying anonymous? I remember reading that somewhere, that the official number of countries involved is 24 or something, but there's another 20 that are on their side. Prosperity Guardian. But quietly because they don't want to take the heat for it or something. Some of them are probably Saudi states too. Oh, for sure, 100%. Can this be resolved without bombing Yemen? Oh, well, how would you get the Houthis to stop? I mean, legit. We've got an aircraft carrier parked there, and a lot of the Houthis are kind of dipshits anyway, so, you know, I don't know. I mean, won't a blockade need to be enforced? Yeah, which is why we're not doing a blockade. We're doing a light carpet bombing. No, we're doing a targeted missile strikes. Hey, SDL, we're pledging support for, you know, America and their war against the Houthis. Yeah, strategic military operation. Why would bombing Yemen stop them, though? Well, the people who are doing the attacks on maritime trade are in Yemen. And the thought is that if you take a person who's doing that piracy and then you reduce them to mist by hitting them directly in the head with a Tomahawk missile, they can no longer do it. The theory is that when you atomize a person with an explosive, it prevents them from engaging in further acts of piracy. I don't know if any studies have been done on that particular relationship, but at the very least, the correlational element seems strong. Didn't Saudi Arabia try that, though? Well, the problem with Saudi Arabia is that they're retards. The U.S. Navy is also retards, but they're also gay and have big guns. There we go. Along with every other innocent person there. Well, that is typically how bombing works. Well, keep in mind, the Houthis, the Houthis aren't like Al-Qaeda, you know, they're not five guys in a cave. They are like a fully operational, like militarized organization that controls the eastern portion of Yemen. So, you know, it's not like you're attacking one guy at a wedding, theoretically. You could attack, like, buildings they have, institutions, military bases, depots, hangars. They're keeping those drones somewhere, aren't they? You know, there are things worth striking in the Houthi territory. Is there a way to target Houthi military targets without killing civilians? No. You can minimize civilian deaths, but civilian death is always going to be a possibility. Yeah, Imperial General. I'm mostly interested, I guess, in, like, Western intel to see, like, how effective these strikes are even going to be. We'll see tomorrow. We'll see in the coming days. Don Juan, I do not think the United States would ever fire missiles into Yemen off of Saudi intel. That would be insane. America has by far the most advanced intel network on the planet. It's so advanced, we don't even know how much money we give our spy satellite program. There was like a recent, like, incidental declassification from Trump of satellite technology that was so advanced that we didn't want other people knowing we had it, and we put it up in space in the 90s. Like, we've got fucking, you know, we've got 5 million Hubble James Webb telescopes pointed directly down at you guys. The U.S. government can see you fucking trim your toenails in the bathroom, all right? You'd see it. I don't think we're using Saudi intel. I think we're using our own. We targeted people based on bad foreign intel all the time? Sure, but my impression is that the Biden administration has tried to be relatively good about incidental civilian casualties, and we've had months leading into this. The administration knew this was going to happen, right? Like, this confrontation has been built towards. The idea that with all of that leading time, that after all of that, we would send our fucking aircraft carrier down there in the Red Sea and then use Saudi intel when the Saudis have done nothing against the Houthis? You know, I doubt. I mean, to be clear, you could be correct. I just think that would be very dumb. And I think that would be bad and dumb if they decided to go that route and use Saudi intel. But, you know. Yeah, it was beautiful earlier, sound. There's a genocide in Gaza right now. Do you think Biden cares about civilians? My opinions on this are well noted, but it's an absolute fact that the Biden administration has massively scaled down the extent to which civilians have been killed in our drone strikes, to the extent we still even do them. Why is America so bad? We're wacky. Excuse me. Oh, I had a meal in between this stream and the last one. All right, close that. Dude, there is so much fucking World War III posting. Holy shit. This is fucking grim, dude. Ben Shapiro responded to Rashida Tlaib's tweet, and I think Ben Shapiro is correct. Why do people put themselves in this position? Rashida Tlaib said that Biden is violating Article 1 of the Constitution. Ben Shapiro quote tweeted with the War Powers Act thing. Man, fuck. Why tee yourself up for this shit, man? I don't know. Like, we're on such a good streak, you know, with the Israel bit in terms of like condemning bad behavior. I don't want to see indiscriminate bombing in Yemen. It's not going to be indiscriminate, for one. For two, like, okay. I don't want maritime trade to be fucking destroyed because a group of jihadist pirates have taken to the, you know, the shipping lane, and for some reason we're not doing something about it. Like every other point in human history, pirates do this and they all get fucking hung up. You know, they all get hanged. And then like the fucking Houthis do it. It's like, oh, we can't do anything because Israel's doing something. Well, I think we can do two things. I think we can do two things at once, in my humble opinion. So is this a declaration of war? No. It's, you know, executive military action. I support Big Venus. From Nina Turner, tonight Joe Biden dropped bombs on Yemen without congressional approval. You don't need congressional approval under the War Power Act. Dude, man, this stuff makes us look like such fucking retards. Why? Look at this. So in the original tweet, Joe Biden says, let's be clear, Donald Trump does not have the authority to take us into war with Iran without congressional approval. That is true, because taking a person into war requires a declaration of war with congressional approval. Tonight, Joe Biden dropped bombs on Yemen without congressional approval. It's a lot of lefties also don't like the War Powers Act. I agree with that. I think it's fine to not like it. It's just people pretending it's a constitutional thing, you know? If you're just gonna say like fuck the War Powers Act or whatever, you're like, yeah, go for it. Like, okay, that's a statement. You know, you can make that statement. That's legal. It's a free country. You can say that if you want. You know, it's. Would this fall under the purview of peacekeeping? Yes. Objectively, yes. 100%. Yeah. From Joshua P. Hill, the highest IQ account on Twitter. The U.S. has been illegally killing civilians in the Middle East for most of my life under both parties. Now a Democratic president is illegally bombing Yemen instead of trying to stop a genocide. Correlation. Biden has now bombed Syria, Iraq, and Yemen, all to ensure Israel can continue slaughtering Palestinian women and children. Oh, we have the Haas take. I wish this was in his voice. The U.S. made a big mistake bombing Yemen. If you think a new war in Yemen is going to be restricted to Yemen, think again. It's now open season for U.S. and British military bases in the region. The Yemenis are fearless and have nothing to lose. They will set the whole region on fire. How? This is desert. How would they set it on fire? All the way What is this? What is this circle? Half of Egypt? Egypt? Sudan? Oman? Okay. Do not underestimate their strike capacity far outside Yemen either, or their deeply embedded alliances with other groups. We have just heard reports of new attacks on U.S. bases by Iraqi militaries. Everyone knows the major regional war will break out this year. It looks like it might now be entering the point of no return. All the defenders of justice, soldiers of righteousness, and keepers of honor are Yemeni today. All the noble among mankind are with Yemen, and the fate of all humanity is Yemeni. We see a people wage a war for no reason other than the defense of human dignity without any profit motive whatsoever. History will remember heroic Yemen, who did what the other Arab leaders were too cowardly and corrupt to do for all eternity. I love him. Yeah, he is iconic, you know. Your lesser evil president is bombing civilian cities in Yemen. What does that mean? Civilian cities? What other kind of city is there? As opposed to military cities, the other places that you bomb. Because Yemeni stop ships without hurting anyone. This, like, seriously, like, this is the left. Like, this is why I say when you go, like, fucking international politics, you know, you talk to liberals. Because, like, holy shit, dude. Really? Just literal fucking like old style piracy to block a major shipping lane, like stop ships without hurting anyone. Absolutely remarkable. Justin Amash. If President Biden had enough time to form a multinational coalition to plan and conduct strikes in Yemen, he had enough time to seek and obtain authorization from Congress as our Constitution requires. No! It doesn't. It doesn't. The War Powers Act says right there. It just has to inform it them. It doesn't say it needs their approval. It doesn't say that. Why? Also, imagine unironically believing that you could get anything passed through Congress at the moment. We know from the White House's own statement that the U.S. strikes recently launched were non-defensive. What? The strikes were warned about well in advance and intended to deter, not to stop an incoming attack. What? Wait, what? The Houthis literally fired missiles at their what? Dude, what? Like, it's like so like America bad. Therefore, I am now like a jihadist propagandist. Like, what? They attacked the ships. That's real. That's a real thing that happened. Non-defensive. Hassan had an L take as well. Yeah, I saw it. I talked about it earlier. Oh, is there a closer up video of the bombing? I only saw the distance stuff from news media. It's Twitter, so there's a solid like 90% chance that these are explosions from like the Syrian civil war. Yep, that is an explosion. No camera skills in that guy, honestly. Aaron Simpson, you're just going to have to take a look at the stream. What is this? Crystal also posted an L. Biden claims he cares about civilians while expediting the 2,000-pound bombs that murder them. He claims he doesn't want a war while illegally bombing Yemen, a liar and a criminal. Quick question. Is there a single leftist online right now who isn't being insane at this exact moment? No? So to be clear, what I just said wasn't a joke. I actually want an answer to that. Is there a single leftist, Dylan Burns isn't a leftist, right? He's a social democrat. A leftist who isn't being insane right now. Okay. Why do you support climate change protesters blocking traffic as a form of protest and not Houthis doing the same on a greater scale? Because I think a militant jihadist organization hijacking ships in an act of piracy that disrupts global trade is probably different from, like, holding up a road for a couple hours for a PR stunt. There's probably a difference between those things. I guess I'd have to think on it more and evaluate my priors to decide if there's any difference between those things. You know, firing like missiles at random cargo ships that pass through the Red Sea, like like sending drones to strike them. I don't know. I guess I'll have to contemplate. All right, KCJ from LI. Only I'm allowed to call people brain dead commie scum. Why do you support protesting but condemn piracy? Yeah. Shit, I guess we've covered this. Squirrel tweet? Oh, shit. The fucking final boss of retarded pseudo-lefty takes. The US and UK are now bombing Yemen so their precious Israeli occupation regime can continue its genocide in Gaza, and the Western media and political class are cheering it on and celebrating, the same ones who demanded every nation on earth do everything for Ukraine. Right, yeah. Yeah, it's about what I expected. Could have been more interesting. Lonerbox is a leftist who's not... Is Lonerbox a socialist? I actually don't recall. I don't remember if Lonerbox is a socialist or a social democrat. No? Yes? Oh, great. Have the Houthis killed any innocent sailors? I don't think they have. I mean, they fired missiles at ships, so the fact that nobody's died has been more a matter of luck than anything. But no, I don't think they've executed the people whose ships they have taken. I mean, they've kidnapped people. Have the Houthis even stopped any Israeli ship? To my knowledge, no. Yeah, Ryan Grimm had a bad take as well. You're going to have to watch the stream on Orthodox Monkey. I mean, Vosh, isn't this jumping into carpet bombing kind of sudden? It's not carpet bombing. They're just firing strikes into the city, and it's not really sudden, no. How are you supposed to stop piracy when the piracy is usually done in the form of drones, helicopters, and missiles being fired from inland Yemen without striking Yemen, you know? There's not really a way to stop it. It's not like the old days of piracy, where the thing that does the piracy is a boat on the water or in the docks, you know? Like, it used to be, if you wanted to stop pirates, you could literally find the pirate ship on the water or in a dock and sink it. And that would be the end of the piracy done by that ship. You needed that ship to do the piracy. Nowadays, you can fire missiles from inland, or drones from inland, you know? Not if it was a ghost pirate ship. I suppose that's true. That does throw a wrench in the plan. Why is it so hard to believe the Houthis, bad and crazy as they may be, are doing this out of concern for fellow Muslims? Fum Dad ass, I notice how every single time I see you in chat, you're saying something stupid, and it's usually not connected from the previous thing you said. You were the one who made the climate change protester versus piracy comments. Like what? Like why? Why? It's like you're not following through on any line. After I've epically destroyed you in the free marketplace of ideas on one line, don't you think you should like sort of ruminate on that for a bit before leaping immediately into the next potential thing you could say to bait my attention? Like, do you care or believe? Do you know anything about the Houthis? Any reason to believe? Like, listen to the way you talk about them. Like, they're fellow Muslims. Are you familiar with like intra-Muslim relationships in the Middle East? Do you think that Muslims just get along with Muslims? Do you think that's just a thing they naturally do? Because that's what the British thought when they carved the borders up in the Middle East. And look at how that turned out. Like, you know, it's sort of paternalistic racism and the assumption that because they're brown, they have to like each other. Like, fucking think of the Balkan region. The Balkans is like 78 different ethnicities all crammed into the size of one football field, all of them with their own country, currency, borders, passport, etc., and all of them would die killing each other, you know? Meanwhile, the Middle East is huge, and it's like, you know, yeah, well, you know, the Palestinians are brown and the Houthis are brown, so, you know, like, why? No, Kanye, but some people did compliment it. Thanks, Deep Sea Vision. Ro Khanna originally posted an L, then read the War Powers Act and changed his mind. I don't see where he changed his mind, I'm afraid. Whatever, this will all blow over anyway. Is the bombing of civilian cities a lie? We bombed the capital. Pretty sure there are civilians in the capital. Is that not bad? Well, if the capital is where they store the equipment that they use to commit the piracy, then potentially it could be good, you know? We don't know. We won't know until tomorrow, Tequila Sunset. EEVCEE in YouTube chat. Vosh would 100% support Ukrainians blocking Russian ships. First of all, they would have to actually block Russian ships. The Houthis are just attacking random ships, is the thing. Second of all, even then, if Ukrainians were firing missiles and like drone striking randomly civilian ships just because they were headed to or from Russia, that would be terrorism. That would be definitionally terrorism. An embargo would be one thing to keep trade from entering the country, but randomly attacking like civilian vessels, that would be a unambiguous like crime. Like that's too, like leaving aside all the other shit, there just isn't any comparison, you know? Why can't people engage with this honestly? Because nobody thinks. Nobody thinks. I'm the only guy. You know what I think it is? I'm the only guy. You're all women. That's what I think. Some of you are like, you know, assigned woman. A lot of you are cognitively women. You're irrational, whiny, and needy. You want me to stream. You want me to do OKBV. You're all women. That's the thing, I think. It's you all. I go on Twitter. Everyone's being hysterical, and I think you're all women. Maybe you are. It's the only possibility. It's a working theory. What is a woman? Someone who's not me. The Houthi movement follows a mixed ideology with religious, Yemeni nationalist, and big tent populist tenets imitating Hezbollah. Outsiders have argued their political views are often vague and contradictory, and that many of their slogans do not accurately reflect their aims. So Peronism, yes, correct. Hakel argues the Houthi movement has two central religious ideological tenets. The first is the Quranic way, which encompasses the belief the Quran does not allow for interpretation and contains everything needed to improve Muslim society. So that means no hadiths, right? The second is the belief in the absolute divine right of the Al-Abayt, Prophet's descendants, to rule, a belief attributed to Jarudism, a fundamentalist offshoot of Zaydism. No hadiths? Okay, so this is some psycho shit. Whenever a fundamental belief is like, you know, well, literally fundamentalism. Yeah. Isn't there logic death to America? Well, you know, everyone thinks death to America. That's a classic one. You know, that's common. Why are the new left so retarded when it comes to international relations? I've got good news for you. It's not just the new left. The term tanky is a product of the fact that even after the Soviets cracked down on Hungarian independence movement from the Warsaw Pact, there were people who still believe the Soviets were like, you know, the building the foundation for global communism. Dude, what? Okay, I'm sorry. This is such a like, I didn't realize unfollowing him now, you know? I knew about the God is great, death to America, death to Israel, curse on the Jews, victory to Islam slogan. Wait, do you think there are people who really get into the Houthis because of that? But then some Houthi supporters stress their ire for the US and Israel is directed towards the governments, not the people. Ali al-Bukyati, the spokesperson for the official media face of the Houthis, rejected the literal interpretation of the slogan by stating in one of his interviews, "We do not really want death to anyone. The slogan is simply against interference of those governments." What? We disavow we disavow our own fucking slogan and our flag. The Houthis have been accused of expelling or restricting members of the rural Yemeni Jewish community, which had about 50 remaining members. 50? Dude, is that even a community at that point? That's literally just like one small apartment building. It's like, fuck, oh my God. Imagine there being 50 Jews left and still bullying them. What the fuck? Houthi officials deny involvement in the harassment. Our problems are with Zionism and the occupation of Palestine, but Jews here have nothing to fear, said Fadl Abdul Taleb, a spokesperson for the Houthis. Despite insistence by Houthi leaders that the movement is not sectarian, a Yemeni Jewish rabbi has said many Jews remain terrified by the movement's slogan. Why? Bro, they said that it was just a meme, bro. Why are you terrified of the cursed on the Jews, victory to Islam slogan? Fuck, that's funny. Al-Houthi has said through his fascicle? I don't know what that word is. Fascicle? A separately published installment of a book or other printed work. Huh. Arab countries and all Islamic countries will not be safe from Jews except through their eradication and the elimination of their entity. A New York Times journalist reported being asked why they were speaking to a, quote, dirty Jew, and that the Jews in the village were unable to communicate with their neighbors. Maybe, maybe they were referring to the government. Fuck, that's funny. Well, I guess if nothing else, we have definitely confirmed that World War III is not starting tonight, despite what many people clearly would like. New footage on Instagram. British Royal Air Force published footage of its fighter jets conducting combat sorties. Okay, this is just fucking jerk-off footage of a plane. I'm not one of those OSN guys. Donald Trump is the one World War III posting? Yeah. Bosch, I think someone wanted to debate you on this. Who? Who wanted to debate me on this? Chatter? Yeah, probably a chatter, yeah. They saw us backpedaling on abolish police. They figured they could do it too. Yeah, someone in chat earlier said, but I do think it's pretty funny that with regards to the Ukraine war, my position has been literally fucking rock solid from the beginning. Like, even before the war started, everything that happened, everything that I laid out, all of it ended up being completely correct. I didn't have to walk back anything. It was so refreshing, dude. It was so nice. I just got to be correct and then just stay that way. Meanwhile, lefties have been doing like double, triple backflips trying to like, because like, you know, like, not to even speak of the Hassan shit, but it was not just Hassan. It's just like this constant tiptoeing they had to do where it's like they needed to not sound pro-Western. So they would just say or do or believe weird things and then have to back off of it and blah, you know. Serious person, I think that my tone has been pretty level. I mean, I'm pretty blasé when covering topics of any level of severity. Earlier in this stream, I was talking about, like, the Nazis taking back over Germany and making jokes in it. You know, it's not like... I don't have a chauvinist attitude towards joking about, like, you know, destructive stuff. Like, I don't get really blasé about it whenever talking about it with, like, brown people dying. But then in America, it's all, like, you know, pearl-clutching and liberal, super serious, you know. I don't do that. I'm pretty consistent with my tone, I feel. I'll look at it later, Antigonos. This wasn't meant to be a full stream. So was there a debate? I didn't see. Did it debate? I guess not. An arco-liberalist wanted to debate me? Okay, I'll check their message log history. Right. I'm a student that studies this stuff. Can I debate you on the constitutionality of the strikes in Yemen? Nope. Nerd. Fucking debate the Constitution. What? Debate a piece of paper? Just rip it up. No, no, I don't. If there's not even a debate to be had. My understanding is that this is covered by the War Powers Treaty. If you disagree, just say the sentence. Not even a debate, right? One of the provisions, we read the text, said attack on U.S. military. The Houthis attacked a ship. That seems to fulfill the criteria as far as I'm concerned. But if that's not the case, then just say how, because I want to know. I think that we're doing the right thing, bombing the Houthis here. By the way, you can't threaten maritime trade. The idea of cutting off like a fifth of international trade because of some fucking rabble rouser jihadists in the Red Sea who happen to have some missiles and drones, and they're just they're not doing anything for the Palestinians. They're just fuck that. No, absolutely not. And the problem is, because again, the piracy is being conducted from sites on shore, you can't just sink a few ships. You have to, pepper them. It's unfortunate, certainly. Don't disrupt international maritime trade. But did Biden declare a state of emergency? No, there is no. Oh, do you mean was it a state of emergency in the context of the war powers? I mean, maybe. I don't know if you have to declare that. The United States is fine. Yeah, I agree. The constitutional argument is immaterial to me anyway. I hate the Constitution. Yeah, no kidding, clogging the evolution. Don't disrupt international trade. Are you a capitalist? Hold on, let me check your message history. If they oppose Israel, I am with them all the way. Vosh, that is their stated reason. Vosh, this is such a liberal thing to care about. None of this is justified. Law, what are you, a liberal? Vosh, a lot of Muslims stand with Yemen because the U.S. is the antagonist. Yeah, those liberals are so great on foreign policy. Let's take a look at Obama. Voss is showing his liberal American chauvinism. The West has no legitimacy on the world stage anymore. Lamau, reporting from Tel Aviv. I don't think that you're a troll. I think you might be a retard, though. There are so many implicit biases that you're demonstrating, not so much in your positions, but what you think my positions are. For example, the most recent one, don't disrupt international trade. Are you a capitalist? Do you think capitalism is the only ideology that does trade? You realize trade is just a feature of human social. And I know you know that because you were here at the beginning of this stream. You've been here. 2:17:30 UTC. 3:39, an hour, 20 minutes earlier. I definitely said this after. You could have heard me. You had an opportunity to grow as a person, but you haven't. You haven't. You've chosen to play around in the shit and the piss, the shit piss pool. You're playing around, you're diving, you're dunking your head underneath it. You got your mouth open as you do it. Playing around. Okay, Vosh, I will listen to grow. That's what I like to hear. The liberal responded with some dumb stuff, by the way. Is that true? The War Powers Resolution states the president has to lay out the constitutional and legislative authority under which the strike took place, and he has none. The DoD press release does not even invoke the AUMFs from 9/11, so they aren't relevant. Congress never authorized the strike or declared war. Anarcho-liberalist, we went over this, but he doesn't need congressional approval. The War Powers Resolution allows him to do it as long as he warns Congress beforehand. He's allowed, he doesn't need their approval. Section 4 requires the warning to contain the laying out of the authority. Okay, so we looked at this right here. The president, in every possible instance, shall consult with Congress before introducing U.S. armed forces into hostilities or into a situation where imminent involvement in hostilities is clearly indicated by the circumstances. In the absence of a declaration of war, in any case where the U.S. armed forces are introduced, 1, into hostilities or into situations. Okay, so these criteria are fulfilled immediately. A, the circumstances necessitating the introduction of the U.S. armed forces constitute the president. Oh, here we go. I see. In numbers which the president shall submit within 48 hours to the Speaker of the House of Representatives and to the President pro tempore of the Senate a report in writing. Oh, then he doesn't even have to inform Congress. He just has to inform the Speaker of the House and the President pro tempore, which he would have done. Like, there's no way he didn't do that. Circumstances necessitating the introduction of the U.S. Armed Forces, the constitutional legislative authority under which the introduction has, the estimated scope and duration for that. Did he not do, how would we know if he didn't do this? It seems more reasonable to assume that he did this. Like, also, by the way, does within 48 hours mean it has to be 48 hours before or after the attack? Because if it's after, then he definitely fulfilled it, because there's no way he didn't, you know? Like, why wouldn't he do that? After? Then yeah, like, you know, then that's set, right? Wasn't it that in the Operation Prosperity Guardian info? In all likelihood, this stuff was done months ago, yeah. My argument is that the submission to Congress must contain the authority under point B, and because there is no authority, the strike is illegal. What do you mean? I think you're waffling, bruv. The constitutional and legislative authority under which such introduction took place, and the introduction being referenced here is U.S. forces in hostilities, but that would be covered by this, Section 2, 2C. Imminent involvement in hostility is clearly indicated by the circumstances exercised only pursuant in 1, 2, or 3 national emergency created by attack on U.S. territory's possession of its armed forces. That would be the thing that he would submit in writing as an indication that, like, legitimizes the involvement. I mean, I mean, I'm not like a legal expert. I'm certainly not a constitutional legal expert. But my feeling here is that none of those points are met in this situation, or it's armed forces. The Houthis attacked our armed forces. Full Metal Cringist. I'm okay. I think it's okay for some limited, like, circumvention of Congress for some military action. I can see a lot of negatives to not being able to do that. I saw Masagui. Oh, it's great, Kanya. Should the president be allowed to open carry? I would hope so. Vosh, strikes disrupt trade. Surely you're fine with that, right? I get I should be banning on site. I need you to think before you post. I need you to think in your head for a second if there might be a difference between jihadist terroristic piracy in a major shipping lane exercised indiscriminately and strikes. In one case, a worker is withholding their labor. They're not slaves, they're workers. That's what they're doing, they're withholding their labor. In another case, you're firing missiles and deploying drones at random civilian cargo ships moving through the Red Sea. Can you think of a difference, Ellen DeGenerate? Please tell me. Please, now that I've laid out to you the factors involved, please tell me you are capable of understanding the difference between those two things. I am listening and learning. You said earlier you were against disruption of trade, so I was clarifying. I think you're acting in bad faith, but fine. You say you listening and learning, so, all right. I'm pretty sure Biden is invoking self-defense as the basis of his authority. Well, that would be Section 2C, subsection 3, right? A national emergency created by an attack on the United States, quote unquote, or its armed forces. This is just an informal invocation of self-defense, but the formal defense would be that, I imagine. What are the Houthis' crimes other than interrupting maritime trade? I mean, we'd have to get into the the Yemeni civil war there, which is really bad. Like, the Houthis have done a lot of fucked up stuff. They're a militant jihadist organization, backed heavily by Iran. I think that, I guess, like, if you're doing like a, like oppression Olympics kind of deal, they're probably not as bad as the Saudis. And they've definitely caused less death than the Saudis have in Yemen. They're not a good group. The problem ultimately is that, like, if you disrupt maritime trade, like, this is like the #1 rule of the ocean, right? And it's, if you do piracy, you get hanged. And that's a good rule. It's a good one. Rarely do people who engage in this kind of behavior even get the dignity of a fair trial. Usually you just fucking die, and that's what's going to happen here to a lot of them. The actual, like, number of deaths here is immaterial. There's no way to stop them except by doing this, and they have to be stopped. So doing this is what has to be done. The Houthis aren't like small beans. They're a massive, like, 6-figure strong, well-armed, well-equipped, jihadist militia that's been indiscriminately attacking civilian trade liners. They knew this was happening. I get they're endangering civilians, but isn't it their territorial waters? Nope. It's international shipping. They're not defending their territorial waters. Child soldier slavery. Yeah, they've done a lot of bad stuff, for sure. Yeah. Do you think they would stop if Israel backed off? Nope. Don't attack Western ships. Don't get Western hit. True. Where was that article we were looking at before that showed the locations? It was from Haaretz. Here we go. Yeah, the international waters extends, it's like, what, 10 miles off the coast? 12? What's the border for international waters? 12? Gotcha. Anyway, as you can see, they've been attacking people pretty indiscriminately. Let me see if I can find the international waters map right here. Wow, the Gulf of Aden. This is a fucking I don't know if this how old is this map? Jesus Christ. It's a narrow passage, but it is the one that gets followed. Let me see. Crazy checkpoint there. Yeah, it's a well-traveled strait. Here we go. I need something like high resolution so we can really look at it. But yeah, there's a very narrow strait down here that you can move through. So, Yemen territorial waters map. What is this red? Maritime zone? Why does this extend out so far? IILSS, International Institute for the Law. What does this describe? Yemen maritime claim about straight baseline for measuring the breadth of the territorial sea. Well, that's further than fucking 12 miles. But now I'm seeing a different map that contradicts that. Here we go. Saudi Arabia-Yemen Maritime Boundary Agreement. Saudi Arabia, Yemen. Oh, from here? Okay, but what about down there? What's that? What's that, what's it called? The Gulf of Aden, right? No, what's the strait called? Hold on. Strait Red Sea. The Bab el Mandeb. The Gate of Grief or the Gate of Tears. Cool. Look at how narrow this shit is, dude. Holy fuck. Like, you can just see that. You can just, like, look, you know? And it's like, yep, that's the Gate of Tears. I could swim that? Yeah, like, maybe. I mean, maybe not. I don't know. Maybe. Why does this matter when the Houthis are not the government of Yemen? I mean, they're the government for the west side of things in a practical sense. The distance is about 16 miles. Okay, 16 miles is actually pretty far. Significance in the maritime trade route. Most exports. 3.3 million barrels of oil passed through the strait a day in 2006. World total. 2018, 6.2 million barrels per day of crude oil, condensate, and refined petroleum. Oh, what about borders? Here. Like, I want to know, hold on. Bab el Mandeb ownership. The government of Britain asserted its ownership in 1857. Ah, of course, of course. Of course. The British presence continued until 1967. Wait, hold on. I'm reading from the same Wikipedia page on both sides. Hello. When the island became part of the People's Republic of South Yemen, before the handover, the British government had put forward the UN a proposal for the island to be internationalized as a way to ensure the continued security of passage and navigation in the Bab el-Mandeb, but this was refused. In 2008, a company owned by Tarek bin Laden unveiled plans to build a bridge named Bridge of the Horns across the strait. Issued notice. Longest suspended passing bridge in the world. Announced in 2010 that phase 1 had been delayed. However, as of mid-2016, nothing has been heard about the project. Yeah, no shit. Fucking 16-mile long bridge. Are you insane? On Google Earth, you can see the borders. Hold on. Layers button, the toolbar that lets you see maritime borders. You just have to click the political button after layers. Hold on. Let me see. View, layers. Everything? Like that? This? Is this showing the borders? No. It doesn't show the coverage. Does that do it? I don't know. Whatever. I'm getting in the weeds here. This is the sea border, but it doesn't matter since international straits can be crossed through ships even through territorial waters. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to see, like the agreed upon passage or like what, you know, whatever. What were we talking about? What do the borders change? Yemen will not be allowed to assert over any part of it. Well, I do think that Yemen shouldn't be able to do piracy and block maritime trade. You are correct, however, that regardless of like any pre-existing borders, I would still argue that it should be possible to go through there, you know? I think that's an issue where you can like rightfully circumvent national sovereignty. You know, you've got like a shipping lane right there. You know, force the entire world to go around Africa. Yeah. They are in Biota. Well, I think, judging from the fact that I'm hungry and am streaming for the second time today, that I'm going to go do that. I think the point has been made. Glory to the American empire. A million deaths upon the Houthis. They're infidels. They don't believe in Western capitalism. And yeah. Yeah, I don't know, guys. People are going to be really crazy about this shit. It's worth noting after everything that it's entirely possible that America and the UK fucked this up a million ways. I mean, obviously, in principle, I guess I defend the action, and I expected it to happen. Have I? You all have been here, or at least some of you have. You recall, I've been predicting that Operation Prosperity Guardian was going to strike inland for weeks now. Why wouldn't they? How else would you do anything down there, you know? Again, there's not ships to sink. So we'll see how that goes. You know, I'm not surprised it's going to this. Hopefully civilian casualties are minimized as much as possible, and just try, I don't know, try to like tone down how fucking crazy people are being, you know? Like please try to dim it down a little bit as best as you can. Be an effort, you know, be an anchor. You know, hold people down. Simmer down, folks. All right, as I said before, donations will be read tomorrow. I love you. I'm sending you... I'm going to send you over to Riverboat Jack, okay? Have a wonderful time, and I love you all personally.